Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Bavia, and I am usually behind the scenes, so I will be showing my face today. I am the editor and health educator for the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, and today we have the lovely Tiffany Malone with us. I will let her introduce herself, and then we will get started on the presentation. So, Tiffany, thank you for joining us, and go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy these presentations, and thank you to all of you out there who are watching live and maybe even watch later on, but I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Tiffany Malone. I am the director of the John A. Schaefer, MD Multiple Sclerosis Achievement Center located in the Sacramento area of California. And by background, I'm a social worker, so mental health has a sweet spot in my heart, and I always enjoy these presentations. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Let me take a second to share my screen and make sure that we are. Are we good on that?
Yep, I think you
Okay,
just go. Yep, there you go.
perfect. All right. Oops. As I'm clicking too many buttons. All right, so today's presentation is on balancing life and the challenges of living with MS. You'll often hear me say that I know MS is not the only box that you have to check when you are at the doctor's office. Oftentimes there's many other things that are going on, not just from a health perspective, but from an overall life perspective. So we want to make sure that we remind ourselves that there's more to us than just MS, and that all of it combined is challenging. One component specifically can be very challenging at any given time, but certainly the compilation of those challenges and on top of living with this diagnosis is very overwhelming. And we want to learn how we can balance that and live the healthiest life as possible. So I'm going to start off with some questions, and hopefully I can see. Let me see. Make sure I can see the responses. Okay, there we go. Let me go over the objectives first, though. We're going to identify what those challenges are. In addition to living with MS, we're going to learn the connection between those challenges and our emotional health, our physical health. We're going to learn about strategies that we might be able to incorporate and always leave you with some resources that might be beneficial to you. Maybe not today, but as we move forward with this discussion. All right, so the first question to all of you, what is the most significant challenge, one of the most significant challenges that you are facing right now? So if you could put that into the chat, we're going to see what challenges we've got going on.
Do you
All
want
right,
me to
we're
read them or
starting out with,
want to read
no,
them?
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good, thank you. All right, we've got fatigue. Oh, money, always money. Oh my gosh, you guys are typing quickly. Let me get back up here. A lack of an MS specialist in particular that we hear a lot, and that is absolutely challenging. Again, more fatigue, lots of fatigue. Okay. Anxiety, Brenda, you're in the right place. Hopefully, I touch on some of that today. Prescription costs. Yeah, that goes with finances. That can absolutely be very challenging. Getting to PT on a regular basis while working full time, getting to anything while you're working full time is a challenge. Being able to balance all of that. So hopefully, again, you're in the right place to learn some strategies. Pain, symptom management issues. So like bladder is listed here, absolutely can be a challenge. So we've got some other health things that we're addressing. Retirement, disability, cognitive dysfunction and challenges, support, feeling invisible. That's really, really, really important to know about yourself and about what's going on with you. Trying to figure it all out while dealing with anxiety and depression. Overall, lots of fatigue, loss of energy, the cognitive dysfunction again. Housing. Thank you all for putting that in. Keep them coming because we're going to use all of this as we move forward in our discussions. But let me throw out the next question. How is that particular life challenge affecting you emotionally? So what are you feeling when you realize that you've got this significant life challenge? What are the feelings that are connected with that? Overwhelmed, absolutely. Frustrated. I'm writing these down so I don't lose them. Lack of motivation. Yeah, absolutely. Alone. Sad, scared, frustrated. Thank you all so much for putting all of this in. This is great content for us to use in our discussion. Discouraged. Oh, we got a couple of those. Give it just one. Useless. I appreciate everyone who participates and is able to. I know not everyone might be able to type these answers in, but I really appreciate that. That's my way of connecting with you, even though we aren't in the same room and we're not able to have this open conversation. This is the way we can do that. A feeling of loss, being needy, hopeless, told I talk too much. When we feel like we don't know what to do, when we're feeling very anxious, when we're feeling very overwhelmed, we want to fill that space. And when there's empty space and we don't know what to do with it, that can be uncomfortable. And so we want to fill that. And so oftentimes we can fill that with words. And that can be pointed out to us in somewhat unproductive ways, I'll say. Let's see. I'm gonna write all this down. Overwhelmed, frustrated. Yeah. All right, and then one more question to pose as we get this discussion going. What do you expect of this life challenge? So think about that challenge that you typed in the first question. What are your expectations? What do you think is going to happen, or what are you expecting is going to happen? This isn't necessarily answering the question, what do you hope is going to happen? Really, what are you expecting is going to happen? And I'll give you a minute to start typing that in. That there's going to be continued challenges. Understanding from others. I'm going to interpret that to mean that you're expecting that others are going to understand. I hope that's right. We're 5 months into a challenge and not sure what's going to happen yet. Not sure what our expectations are. Loss of ability. You're expecting to be doing less and less, wondering if anxiety will progress into something I'm not prepared for. Absolutely. Expect the confidence to keep trying. I love that that was an expectation. I expect to try organizing my, you guys are typing so fast, I can't read that fast. My physical place and my mental space. That it will always be, so need to look at other ways to deal with it. Hang with us. We're going to talk about that. Constantly pacing it. Expect that life will continue to get harder. Yeah, when we're in that feeling of challenge and frustration and overwhelming feelings, that can absolutely make us think and expect that this isn't going to get better, this isn't going to get resolved, and it's in fact going to get harder and potentially worse. That there's going to be ongoing financial difficulty. Expect the unexpected. Great answer. Kudos to you for that one. And expect loss of freedom. These are fantastic. They're going to really carry us through this discussion, and hopefully you will be able to incorporate some of what we talk about into feeling stronger within yourself, stronger within your connections with others, and stronger in your ability to move forward with whatever that looks like. and we're expecting ongoing pain and more limitations. Okay. All right. So what I want to start off by saying is that our beliefs, our attitude, our thoughts, and our emotions compiled, they're either going to cause us harm or they're going to be a source of healing. Okay, let me say that again. So the beliefs and attitudes and thoughts and emotions that we have, they're going to help us or they're going to work against us. Okay. Our brains easily get stuck in repetitive patterns of viewing the world. So when we are always looking for the negative, what do you think we're going to get? We're going to get the negative. We're going to get that life is hard. We're going to get that it's going to be an ongoing challenge. And we're really not going to be able to see the other side of that, or any other side of that. And it's not just about positive versus negative. It's not this or that. There's a lot of gray area that's in between that. There's a lot of room for growth and learning and understanding, and processing. So it doesn't have to be a good versus bad thing, but it doesn't all have to be in one direction. It can kind of flow in either direction if we allow it to. And my hope for today is that we can learn some ways that that's possible. So we heard things like being overwhelmed. We heard emotion like frustration, sadness. A lot of that kind of falls under the big categories of emotions of fear and anger. And I hear those emotions a lot with when working with our MS community. Fear and anger can work in a variety of ways for us. One way is that it can be completely debilitating. It can really just kind of knock us down, and it can cause us to feel threatened. It can cause us to feel like we're unsafe. If any of you out there in the audience are care providers, loved ones, it can make us feel like our loved one is unsafe or that we're unsafe and threatened to be able to care for our loved one. That can cause us to go into withdrawal, into isolation. We can feel a lack of control. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know where else to go. I feel like I'm at a dead end. And then we can kind of isolate and be inattentive to our needs or to those challenges or to those frustrations, that it can become so overwhelming that I'm just going to avoid it altogether. So inattention can also lead to avoidance. And that can negatively impact the quality of our relationships. In previous sessions throughout this series, I've talked about quality versus quantity. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that we have the most and the most relationships or the most connections. It's about the best, having the healthiest and the ones that are working the best for us. But fear and anger can be debilitating to the point that we have negative relationships, we have negative quality in our relationships, or we don't have them at all. And it really puts us in a vulnerable position. So much so that, again, we can avoid, we can isolate, we can shut the world out, trying to ignore it, trying to say, I don't want to deal with this. This is too much. Overwhelmed came up multiple times. This is too overwhelming. And really, when we don't know what to do with that, when we're uncomfortable in that state of emotion, then we can shut down. And we do shut down. And we don't address it at all, or we expect that the next thing is going to be, if not just as bad, even worse than what I'm already dealing with, that I'm looking at this negative outlook all the time or a majority of the time. This is a reaction to a situation. This is a reaction to a challenge. This is a reaction to something that we're faced with. And it's usually driven by emotion. So that fear and anger is driving us to these end results, to this feeling of lack of control, to this feeling of threat, to this feeling of being unsafe, to this feeling of being not understanding what's going on, so I don't even want to deal with it at all. Those are reactions. The flip side to that is that fear and anger can be motivating. And when I say motivating, I don't mean that you're going to, get out there and be the cheerleader for that particular challenge and tell everyone that it's going to be okay. That's not necessarily where I'm going with that. What I mean by that is that we're responding versus reacting to that challenge or to that situation. And what I mean by that is that we are taking a pause when that challenge comes up. We're taking a pause to say, okay, that didn't feel good. That made me really angry. That made me really frustrated. That made me really scared. Let me stop. Let me process this information. Let me see what else is available. How else can I look at this? And when we dive down into that, that means that we're reducing or even eliminating that feeling of harm. We're feeling like we're safe in that space to process that challenge, to process that information, to process what's going on with us. And when we do that, when we give ourselves permission to take that time and to give ourselves that space that we need, we're in control. And we can feel that. And we feel more of that the more time we give ourselves, the more grace we give ourselves, the more information we collect so that we can make those educated decisions. And it creates a heightened sense of possibility. You're going to hear me use this word a lot today, possibility. What's possible? What's out there? Shared with me many of your expectations that I expect that there's going to be ongoing challenges. I expect that this is going to be harder. I'm going to expect that I have a loss of freedom, that I'm going to lose my independence, that this is just going to continue, right? When we stop and look at it in a different light, we might acknowledge that this particular life challenge is ongoing. It's been going on for several months, maybe even longer than that for some of these, that I haven't found resolution yet. But if I change the perspective and I'm not looking for resolution necessarily, but I'm looking at how I can strengthen a process, if I can look at how I can strengthen a connection, if I'm looking at how I might be able to reduce the effects of this particular challenge, that's when it can be motivating. You can find yourself in moments of more success. You can find yourselves in moments of, wait, I wasn't even expecting that. I didn't even think that that could happen, and be pleasantly surprised. And that motivates us to continue looking at other possibilities and looking at other ways of doing this. So when you see that word ripple, so on the screen it says the ripple effect. Type in, if you could, what you think of when you think of ripple. What do you picture in your mind? What do you have envisioned in your mind when you think of ripple? A cascade, the ocean or the river, water. That it's ongoing, cause and effect, water drops going and going and going, a chain reaction, waves of highs and lows. We're using this word waves a lot. I like that. Getting worse. I'm going to hold on to that. Increasing, tunnel. Persistent, chocolate ripple fudge ice cream. Well, now I'm hungry, but I really like that answer. Now I'm gonna have to go get ice cream after this. Is there more to follow? Something coming down the road. So this is posed as questions. So something happened, and now I have questions of where is that going to go? What's going to happen with that? The other shoe dropping. Ice cream does sound better. You're right, Denise. Um, this is all fantastic. I'm going to bring us back to the concept of water. So the image that's on the screen now is a droplet of water hitting a body of water and the rings that come of that. And there's close to the droplet at first, but they grow, they expand, it goes out. If you think of a larger body of water, someone said the ocean or a lake, you think you look out that and you think of maybe a skipping rock that's hitting each time and the ripples taking more and more of that body of water. One small change can have an enormous impact. One challenge can have a significant impact. And we're going to look at that on both ends of that coin, okay? So let's take those emotions of fear and anger that we were talking about that can be debilitating or potentially more motivating. So think of fear and anger, that those emotions, and if you want to use sadness, frustration, that being overwhelmed, absolutely acceptable. Think of those emotions being that droplet of water that's going into that body, that bigger body of water. And you can see if you can see those slides in the screen, you'll see that there's rings around fear and anger. And the first one is lack of control or vulnerability. So when fear and anger or any of those emotions are negatively affecting us, that maybe one of those first senses is that lack of control and that feeling of being very vulnerable, and vulnerable in an unsafe capacity. Okay. If we hold on to that, if we allow that to be in our space, that's going to ripple into something bigger, a threat to safety. I'm feeling unsafe. I feel like I need to protect myself. I need to do whatever it takes to do that. And I'm going to act quickly. Okay. And oftentimes, what happens when we feel a threat to safety is that we will withdraw. We will hunker down, we will withdraw, we will build that wall, we will build that protection, we will make sure that nothing else gets through to cause increased feelings of being unsafe. Okay. Also, what goes with that is that feeling of, or that sense of inattention. I'm out. I'm not doing this. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to address it. I don't want any more information about it. I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to pay attention to it, because if I don't give it any attention, then it doesn't exist. If I don't give it any attention, then it may not, hopefully it won't get worse. If I don't give it any attention, then it doesn't have to feel as real or as frightening as it does. Okay. And that's where it leads to that decreased quality of relationships. And when I say that, I mean that it decreases the relationships we already have, the quality of the relationships we already have, those connections that we already have in our lives. We're going to be less likely to reach out. We're going to be less likely to look for other possibilities. We're going to be less likely to explore possibilities or ideas from others, because we don't want any more of that negativity. We don't want anything to make that feeling of fear, anxiety, depression, being overwhelmed to feel worse than it already does. So I'm going to shut it all out. And I don't want anyone else to tell me what I should be doing. I don't want anyone else to tell me what they think is best for me. I'm going to avoid all of that. Okay. And I'm using absolute terms on purpose, because this is what happens with these ongoing feelings of these negative feelings and feelings of fear, anger, anxiety, depression, frustration. In addition to the decreased quality of relationships that currently exist in our life, we're not going to build any new ones or find ways to strengthen the ones that already exist. We're not going to spend any time on that. And again, that becomes debilitating, because we're not going to learn. We're not going to grow. We're not going to find opportunities for something to be different than it is now. Okay. And oftentimes that stems from the fact that we don't want it to be worse than it already is. And those of you that shared that that's what your expectation is that it's only going to get worse. I appreciate that, because this is the category that falls under. This is where we're going to say, I already know it's bad. It's only going to get worse. Here I am. This is what it is. And that's all I have to give. Let me look over here. I see a comment that came through. Is where my family gets upset with me and my absolute thinking, but I have been living with my multiple conditions for my whole adult life. You know, and so decreased quality of relationships, that's a big term. That's me maybe putting out there that the assumption, and it's not an assumption, but it may feel like an assumption that your relationships are already strong and that your relationships are already good. Not necessarily, but this is where that word decreased quality of relationships, that means, again, that the ones we have are only going to get worse or less, and we're not going to build new healthy ones. Okay, so I hope that I'm clear about that. But there is the possibility that this could look different. Okay. So same image, same droplet of water, fear and anger. Okay. Something happened, caused fear and anger. What if that actually put me in a position where I felt in control? And the way we can do that is if we take that therapeutic pause. What do I mean by that? Therapeutic pause is taking space for ourselves, time, energy, what little we do have, for ourselves to acknowledge that that droplet of water has hit. That emotion is there. It doesn't have to be as strong. The ripple can be different. The ripple does not have to be in a negative direction. So what can happen is that when I take that pause, when I take that time to process, to reflect, to perhaps give me time and space to get more information, then I feel in control. I feel more in control. First of all, you've acknowledged that something has happened or is happening and continues to happen. It doesn't have to continue to be and have the impact that it did at that exact moment, or that it has over those months that you've been dealing with that challenge. When we feel like we're in control, there is less sense of harm. There's less sense of being unsafe. When we feel like we're in control, we feel like we are the decision makers. There's safety in that. There's security in that. Even when there's unknown attached to it, because there's always going to be an unknown component to everything we face, all of our challenges. But when we are in the driver's seat, when we are feeling like we are in control of those decisions, then it helps us feel like we're safe, that we're more secure. And it gives us a heightened sense of possibility. Told you I was going to use that word quite a bit. And when we feel like there's something possible out there, I may not know what it is, it gives me the attention and it gives me the motivation to reach out to others to say, I'm really struggling with this. I'm wondering if you might have any suggestions for who I could talk to, or how I might be able to get some support. When you approach it in that way, not necessarily that you know exactly who you're going to go to and that they're going to be able to fix it right away. But when you start those conversations, it starts its own ripple of ideas, of possibilities, of more information for you to be able to process to address your situation. And I'm talking about this in a ripple effect, but I appreciate those that put in wave as what they thought of when I said ripple, because the wave kind of comes in and out, right? So, okay, we've gotten to the point where we've reached out to someone else and they've given us these ideas and they've said, you know what, talk to this person, or have you thought about going to this professional and adding them to your team? Then it brings us back to that feeling of control. It takes us back to that I'm going to respond, not react, but I'm going to respond. I'm going to think about that information. I'm going to process it. I'm going to evaluate how that might look for me, how I might interpret that, how it might be a part of my journey with this challenge. And then I'm going to make my own ripple. I'm going to say, okay, let me reach out to that person. Let me call that contact that a friend gave me. Let me see where that goes. Okay, that didn't work. Well, I tried that. Okay, so then it comes back and I'm going to evaluate that again. And then I'm going to explore some more. And so it does become like a wave of bringing it back in, feeling in control, feeling safe, not knowing all the answers. That's not what this is. That's not the point of all of this, but gaining more knowledge, gaining more information, giving something a try, and maybe even changing our expectation of, you know what, it might suck at the end. It might still be hard. It might even be worse, but I gave it a try. And I now know that that was the answer. Let me come back. Let me gather more information and let me try something different. If we don't explore what these possibilities are, if we don't explore where we might be able to go with it, being stuck is going to take you nowhere. It's going to keep you exactly in the state of mind and the same emotion, the same frustration that you're currently in. And what happens when we have this ongoing sense of anger and fear specifically? Chronic feelings of anger and fear lead to anxiety. Some of you share that you have feelings of anxiety. Maybe that stemmed from an initial feeling of fear and or anger. Depression, same thing. It can also lead to so those are how we need to protect our mental health. Then there's other physical health, physical wellness aspects that we need to consider. Ongoing feelings of fear and anger can lead to hypertension. We don't need higher blood pressure. We don't need any of these we don't need to give ourselves a reason to check more boxes. Okay. It can also increase levels of cortisol. Now, normal levels, balanced levels of cortisol are good. We need those. Those levels allow us to deal with stress in a healthy way. But if it's too much, what that's going to do, potentially do, is cause things like high blood sugar levels. It's going to could cause sexual dysfunction. It can cause ongoing mental health challenges. And then increased number of pro-inflammatory markers. That tells us that there's something going wrong with our health. That tells us that there's an infection, that something is off, that our body is trying to fight something and it's trying really hard. Again, we don't need any more of that when we're already dealing with the challenges of MS and of life. Okay, so we really want to minimize the negative effects of that droplet of fear and anger. Okay, we want it to turn into something that makes us see life as there are possibilities, instead of seeing that this is what I'm going to have to be dealing with for my entire life. So let's talk about the power of possibility. And the power of possibility is really meant to look at how we can manage life through healthy habits. Habits are our daily routines. Habits are our thoughts, our ongoing emotions, our ongoing connections with living with MS, living with financial challenges, living with housing challenges, living with work-life balance. Those are our habits. Those are the daily routines that we're going through. And when we get into unhealthy routines, we stay in them because that's what we know, right? In some cases, that's what feels comfortable. I know the bad stuff, so I'm going to stick with it. I don't want it to get worse because that's my expectation, is that it will get worse. So how can I look at this power of possibility and think of it from a healthy perspective? How can I build these healthier habits? We can do that by creating a pattern. Sorry, I keep having to move these things on my screen. Or creating a pattern that looks for instead of creating a pattern that looks for negatives and blocks success, let's flip the switch. Let's scan the world for opportunities. Let's look for ideas that allow us to grow. Let's look for things that can strengthen ourselves, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship with others. So what's possible? I've kind of built a tier of how we can start to make those changes. So again, if you think of the ripple effect, these are droplets of change that you might be willing to make in your life to address those life challenges that you shared. The first one is language. Language includes our verbiage, our definitions of certain words, and tone. Okay? So I'm not here to say that those challenges are not valid. They absolutely 1000% are, and they're hard. Okay. If I sit with those challenges and continue to tell myself that there is nothing else, that there is no light ever, that it's only going to get worse, that is going to be my belief. That's going to be my attitude. That's going to be my emotion. Period. And that is going to continue to cause harm, cause me to have these unhealthy habits. If I'm willing to change the verbiage, perhaps the definition, even the tone, if I soften my tone, if I'm gentler with myself, if I give myself some grace through these challenges, then I can start to reframe how I talk to myself, how I talk to others, and how I allow others to talk to me. And that leads to our attitude. Our attitude includes our mood, our perceptions. So, how I view this challenge, how I perceive that challenge, how I perceive that challenge affecting me, how I perceive that challenge affecting my loved ones, how I perceive that challenge affecting my life balance. And that creates and turns into our expectations. Again, when the language is unhealthy, the expectations are going to be unhealthy. If we have that droplet of change and start using healthy language, it turns into a healthy attitude and healthy expectations. And that leads us to building healthy connections. And that absolutely includes building boundaries. Boundaries within myself, boundaries within my relationships with my loved ones, boundaries with strangers, boundaries with medical professionals, boundaries with anyone in your life. Okay. This also can allow us to avoid isolation, that I feel confident that I can build healthy boundaries, that I feel confident that I can say yes or no to something, that I can feel confident to say, you know what, I need time to reflect on that. Give me some time, give me some space to do that. Let me give myself time and space to do that. And then it can create healthy, functional relationships. Think about the family that I know some of you were talking about, the family that will challenge your thinking, or your description of what's going on. They're creating their own beliefs about what should be happening. They create their own expectations. But think about the function of those relationships. Who is that person for you? What do they do that supports you? What do they do that's good and healthy for you? Make sure that you build boundaries to protect the part that's good and to minimize and eventually, hopefully, eliminate the parts that are unhealthy, that are destructive, that are leading you down an unsupportive path. Again, we don't have to have the most in our life, but hopefully we have the healthiest and the relationships that are working best for us. Okay. So I'm going to need a relationship with my healthcare provider. If that healthcare provider is not meeting my needs, then I need to build that boundary. I need to say, these are the things that I need from you as my healthcare provider. Are you willing and able to provide that? And if not, can you point me in the direction of someone who can? Okay. Being dismissed or feeling dismissed is not okay. It's not healthy for us. So we want to change that perspective. We want to change that perception. We want to change that happening. We want to change that relationship and protect the parts that are working. And we want to live with whatever it is, not against. We want to live with MS. We don't want to be fighting it all the time. We want to live with our finances. We don't want them to be fighting against us. We want to understand how that can work with us in a healthy, productive, successful way. So, first and foremost, we acknowledge it. You're all doing that because you showed up today. You're here with us together, where we all, those of us that shared in the chat, you're acknowledging it. If you weren't able to share in the chat, I hope that you answered that question internally, because acknowledgement is the key. We need to acknowledge what's going on. And then acceptance, not so easy. I know that, but acknowledgement is a key component of that. And it helps us understand that it is and that we're with it instead of fighting against it. And that opens that opportunity for looking at the possibilities, for learning a different way, for trying a different way, for putting ourselves in a healthy, vulnerable position to try something that we have no idea how it's going to work, but I won't know if I don't try. And I'm willing to try because I'm worth the effort. I'm worth the exploration of possibility. And I hope that you are able to say that to yourself. That's how all of this is going to work. That's how this is going to become something that's different than how you're currently attached to it. Is that you give yourself permission to see yourself as who you are right here, right now. And that you maybe want to try something different, that you want to see a difference in how this will affect you. Okay. So my next question to you is, and those of you who have seen this before, it's okay for you to answer again, but when you look at this word art, what word stands out to you the most? Go ahead and chat that in when you can. Together. Let's start with together. Together is something that means that we aren't in this alone, that we aren't going to be isolated, that we aren't going to be withdrawn. It's going to show us and tell us that there are others that are here with me, whether they completely know and understand what it is that I'm challenged by. They're there to be there with me, and not even someone who has to fix it, but to be there together. I see collaborate coming through quite a bit. Collaboration can happen when we are together, when we are connected. I see that some people put connect on there. When we're connected in a healthy way, we can collaborate. We can share ideas. We can talk this out. Again, we may not get to the end answer. We may not get to fix the problem, but it's that compilation of shared ideas that can be the motivating factor for us to try something different. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try again. Possibilities. I'm glad that was brought up, because that was really a word that's meaningful to me, and why I chose that as the topic for this particular session. Growth. When we're learning, when we're engaging, when we are vulnerable, that gives us the opportunity to grow. That gives us the opportunity to strengthen ourselves and strengthen those connections. And that all takes courage. It takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to connect with someone. It takes courage to connect with ourselves. It takes courage to acknowledge what's going on and reach that point of acceptance. That is incredibly courageous. And you're all courageous because you're here and you're putting yourself in this vulnerable position to talk about this hard stuff. Start. I didn't even know that was on here, so I appreciate that I'm learning as we go. And start can happen at any point. Start is every time that droplet hits the water. I'm starting a new possibility. I'm starting a change. I'm starting a different way of talking to myself. I'm starting a new boundary so that I can work together to connect with others to find solutions. Thank you, Karen, for adding solutions there. None of this can happen if we're isolated and withdrawn and alone. Again, that's an absolute statement. None of us will be able to do this alone. We need each other. We have this incredible community that we can reach out to. We have this incredible community beyond living with MS that we can enjoy life when we allow ourselves to do so. One more opportunity to put something in chat. I want you to think back to your original answer to that very first question, to that one challenge that's been most impactful to you right now, that one life challenge. After we've talked about the ripple effect and the power of possibility and the health connection to these emotions that we might be feeling, what small change are you willing to make? What small opportunity do you see that you can take? What droplet can you place in the water to perhaps become a wave of opportunity, a wave of possibility? I'd love for you to share that with me now, if you would. Volunteering, having a more positive attitude, having hope, finding hope. I hope that you're finding that. And I love the volunteering opportunity because it puts you in a place where you're serving others. You're you're finding purpose. You're giving yourself something that's healthy and meaningful in an otherwise sense of, I don't know what else to do. Knowing that it's okay, giving yourself more grace, doing more research, getting that information from reliable, verified sources, please. And thank you. I have to put that out there. Finding someone to talk to, sharing knowledge that you gain. Absolutely. Share with others what you learn. And again, this is a sharing of ideas. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for everyone or that someone's idea is going to work for you. But again, it opens that opportunity for something different to exist. Let me try something. Well, that part didn't work, but let me tweak it and try it this way. Seeking connections. And for anyone who's challenged by that part, by seeking connections, please reach out to the MS Foundation. Please reach out to a support partner or a confidant. Reach out to your medical provider if you feel like that's appropriate. Reach out to find what works for other people. There are great resources even within this community right here that we have today. And maybe you're reading something or hearing something that sparks a light for you, an idea that maybe you didn't think of. Take one day as different to try new adventures, dust off my fears because I'm me. Fear can, like I said, fear can be debilitating, and we don't necessarily in those times want to try something new. I heard earlier today that we're guaranteed just this sunrise, right? What am I going to do with this sunrise? What am I going to do with this day that I have? How can I make it be the best, the healthiest for me? How can I feel good at the end of the day that I got up and I got through my day, however that looked? And whatever I did, giving myself permission to be proud and feel that feeling of success and let that be. Tomorrow may look very different, may look the same, but it may look very different. Knowing it's not perfect. I hear some hesitation in one of these. Use my mobility device. Maybe. Okay. Well, see how you feel tomorrow. Fear of the unknown. Listen to learn and continue to apply the knowledge. Beautifully said. Accept. And again, when we're struggling with acceptance, stick with acknowledgement for now. You'll get there. You will. Keep acknowledging where you are. Keep giving yourself permission to have grace. Keep giving yourself permission to be enough as who you are right now. Make a healthy schedule and evaluate my ability daily to feel good. Absolutely. Schedules are fantastic. Don't let them define who you are or dictate what's going to happen. Use them as a source of a resource, as a guide, as a sense of motivation and encouragement. And also reflecting back on your schedule to say, look at what I did. Like, I feel very accomplished, because oftentimes we can forget those things by the end of the day. Celebration. I'm all about that. I'm all about, like, yeah, you did that. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug, give someone else a hug, give a high five, a fist bump, whatever works for you. Absolutely celebrate what you've accomplished, what you can do. There's loss of ability in all of this. It doesn't mean that we're completely lost. Loss of ability does not mean that you are lost. So again, changing that language, changing that verbiage, changing that emotional attachment. My schedule helps me have things to look forward to. Absolutely. And you'll hear me say this, you've heard me say this, that especially when we find things that bring us joy that we get to put on our schedule instead of all the doctor's appointments, that can absolutely be that motivating factor. You have seen, if you've been with me before, you've seen these resources, but I'm going to throw them out there again. Hopefully you find something that's beneficial to you. The MS organizations are fantastic. Reach out to them if you don't have anyone else to reach out to, or you're stuck, you don't know where else to go. And the MS Foundation has my contact information. If there's something I can help you with, if there's something that you want to talk out with me, please reach out to the MS Foundation. And I'm right now giving Bhavya the permission to share my contact information for anyone who would like to have that and can benefit or just wants somebody to talk to. And now, Bhavya, I think we want to open it up and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So before we start the questions, I know there's only 5 minutes left of this webinar. So do you mind staying an extra 5 minutes, or
I could stay for an extra 5 minutes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you're new to this, how we're going to do this is, if you have a question and you want to submit it, try to do it through the Q&A so we can make sure everybody has a fair chance. And you're more than welcome to use the anonymous button if you don't want your name to be shared. So Camille has a question. It's kind of a long one. She said that she noticed that when she attends MS or general disability peer meetings, there's often a lot of doomsday thinking, even from facilitators. Really brings her down because she's personally working towards building a profitable business and a stable financial life. She's made huge progress towards the goal that she thought was impossible. Congratulations. She lives with remitting relapsing MS, diagnosed in 2013, and bipolar disorder since 2004. She's reached the point she can't rely on Canadian government assistance programs anymore. She finds it challenging that many people she meets don't believe in financial independence as it's not possible for themselves or dismisses what she does as not real. Her question is, how can someone like her stay focused and continue to grow in an environment where the dominant mindset seems to reinforce dependency and hopelessness?
Wow, there's a lot to unfold there. Thank you so much for that background, and for the question. And I hope that I'm answering this in a way that's productive for you. What I hear is that there's, this world of expertise, that's giving the information. And what I would really recommend is that we pare that down, really, really, really pare that down and find someone that you trust that can give that guidance on an individual basis. Someone who's able to take in all the information that you have to share about yourself, your challenges, your goals, right? And working with you on an individual basis to meet those needs. We can go into these big group presentations and we might, and maybe that happened today for some of you where it's like, well, that doesn't really work, that doesn't really work. But really what, we're talking to a big audience, right? So we're giving general information. But one-on-one really has some remarkable benefit, or can have some remarkable benefit. So I don't have the exact answer, but my general response to that is to try to pare that down to someone that you're working with in a smaller scale.
Thank you. Maria is asking, is there a resource to find a buddy in my city? I don't know anybody else with MS or this community.
Great question. So some of the national MS organizations can help with that. Perhaps it's starting with identifying if there's a support group in your area. I know support groups aren't for everyone, but if nothing else, it's an opportunity to exchange contact information and find those people that you connect with, and that you want to meet with outside of that support group, or maybe stick with the support group. The other thing is that social media is, I mean, I have my own thoughts about social media, but it can be helpful. And I know that and I know the foundation, Bhavia, right, has Facebook. Some of you are on Facebook Live right now. And so being able to connect with some of those social media groups, and again, that's putting you in a vulnerable space to kind of come out and say, hi, I have MS. Anybody else want to talk? But that can be a way to do that. And then my last response to that is that if I don't know what area you're in, but if you know someone who might know someone, then reach out to them. Again, that's where that ripple effect can be beneficial, where I'm looking to build my community. And maybe it's not even about MS. Maybe it's about that I'm going to go volunteer. I'm going to go, do something fun, and I'm going to maybe start, or maybe be a part of a book club and be able to meet people that way. So there's lots of opportunities. Again, it depends on how much we are willing to make ourselves vulnerable and put ourselves out there for those opportunities.
And if I just may add to that, Maria, and to anybody else that is looking for support or to find somebody in their community, MS Focus has a support group coordinator that can help. And I will, sorry in advance, Marcia, when you hear this, I am putting her email in the chat for everybody. So she can help you find a support group in your community. And if there isn't one, you can start one, and you never know who's looking. So there
That's
is
right.
somebody out there, and if there's not, you can be that somebody for someone else.
Absolutely.
Denise is asking or letting you know, we have to find our tribe. I found mine through MSAC.
Yes, she did. We're happy to have you, Denise. Glad you're there.
I don't really see any other questions, so I'll give it a couple minutes, and I have a question for you.
Please.
When you talked about boundaries, and you talked about boundaries with yourself, with your family, with strangers, how do you reinforce those boundaries without coming across as disrespectful or selfish?
That is a great question, Bobby. Thank you for asking that. Um, it takes practice, and we're probably going to come off as short, as maybe frustrated or angry or dismissive. But what we can do is we can say, that's not working for me right now. Um, I need to take a break. I need to, what I give everyone permission that if you need out of a situation, you definitely have to pee. So just go to the bathroom, right? You have to go to the bathroom to get out of a situation. Nobody's going to follow you. They're going to give you your space. But when you're trying to build those boundaries with family, for example, again, using the term or the statement, thank you, I hear you, that's not working for me. This is what I need. Oftentimes we have a tendency to want to fix everybody else, right? And so everyone has an opinion as to how you should live your life and what you should be doing and what the commercial said you should be taking so that you can be better and all these things, right? But that may not be the right fit for you. And it's okay for you to continually say, that's not going to work for me. Thank you. I hear you. That's not going to work, you know? And we've talked about this at the Achievement Center quite a bit. If I have a friend, for example, that I really like to hang out with, but that can be challenging for whatever reason, maybe structure the time with that friend to be something that's productive, that's something that's fun, something that's not going to be so focused on what you should be doing or what that person should be doing to fix their lives, right? Just engage in an enjoyable activity. So those are some of the top things that come to mind. It takes a lot of, I'm going to be honest, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of repetition.
Thank you. Um, Thank you for all those answers. I don't see any other questions coming in, and for the sake of time for attendees and for you, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. So to everybody that attended, thank you so much for your participation, and especially thank you, Tiffany, for this wonderful presentation. I know a lot of people were saying thank you in the chat, and I just want to acknowledge that, and even on Facebook. Our next webinar will be next Tuesday, November 11th. It's going to be Ask the MS Expert with Dr. Thrower. So bring all your MS questions and watch him answer them in 1 hour. Um, and to everybody that is curious, this is recorded and it is live streamed on Facebook. So it's going to be available for you to watch on our Facebook page soon as this program ends, and it'll be on YouTube in a few weeks. And Tiffany will be back next year for more mental health. I love this topic, and I just want to take 2 seconds to tell you that while I don't have MS, I really just appreciate how much you focus on mental health, especially in today's world. I think everybody could use a dose of just making sure they're okay. So thank you for sharing all of this lovely information with us.
Happy to, and can't wait for next year.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.